Hi, and welcome to Zen Divorce TV. Today, my guest is the lovely Kandy Holgate of Exclusive Equals. Kandy is a matchmaker and dating coach and provides an offline matchmaking service for professional people looking for a committed relationship. So welcome to Zen TV, Kandy. I'm really pleased to have you here today. Can you tell everyone a little bit more about how Exclusive Equals helps people? Particularly, perhaps if they've come through a bad relationship, such as if they've had a divorce or maybe even a bereavement, and they find themselves alone and they're not quite sure where to start.
Oh, well, first of all, thank you very much for having me, Margaret, and it's wonderful to be here today. So Exclusive Equals is, as you said, an offline matchmaking service. And I think what's important about that is the fact that this offline means that we provide a really personal service. Nobody's information is put online or put anywhere. So particularly for people who perhaps have come through a difficult time, they know that they're being held really safe, really, by us. And all their information is kept completely confidential, and we will just work with them until they are really ready to go on a date or meet somebody. But we appreciate that because after a relationship breakup, there needs to be a certain period of time for people to almost grieve after a long-term relationship. So the importance of us providing a really personal service, particularly after somebody's come through a bad relationship or had a very difficult breakup, is that they need time almost to grieve for the loss of that relationship, because whether it was good or bad, it was something reliable that was constant in their lives, and it probably defined a lot of the behaviour and activities that they did. So what we encourage people to do after a breakup is to take some time to really get to know themselves first. And then when they do know themselves first, then they have the opportunity to work out who is going to complement the new version of themselves as an individual. So with our coaching, what we do is kind of take people on a journey to find out what they feel took them to the point where the relationship ended, what sort of choices they made, and how they can look at those choices and identify them and prevent them from happening again, so that when they make choices with relationships in the future, they're not perhaps making the same decisions and choices that they made before, which turned out to be quite negative for them.
Yeah, that happens, doesn't it? A lot of people, and I've seen this with my clients, go through a divorce, they go through the relationship breakup, and then all of a sudden, again, they're suddenly in the same kind of relationship with the same kind of person, because I haven't really looked at what happened in the previous relationship and how they should move on. So that sounds to be a really good plan that you've got there, a really good coaching plan, the journey to help people actually identify what it is about them.
No, exactly, Margaret, because everybody, we all love to feel safe, and, we're humans. We're not designed to be solitary. We're designed to be in groups. So, so obviously there is a certain amount of safety that you feel when you're in a partnership, and that sometimes can mar the negativity that could be there. So it's understandable that people will, when they finish one relationship, want to get into another one, to perhaps feel as though they're taking away the pain, but in the long term, it may not be the best thing to do. It may be preferable for some people to just take some time out to determine whether, the sort of person they had before was the sort of person they want again, and to identify the choices that they make in the future.
Yeah, and really, if they can take some time out to work on themselves, because we do need to do some work on ourselves. As we're both coaches, we know that.
Definitely.
Since I've been doing the coaching, because I came through a pretty horrendous divorce myself.
Yes.
I've known about coaching in those days because I think it's helped me unravel an awful lot of stuff that I had, baggage that I had that I've been able to now ditch.
Yes.
We're not bag ladies, certainly not those bag ladies. Maybe a nice Louis Vuitton or what's the other one? Mulberry, isn't it? And a lovely Mulberry bag. We can be those bag ladies, but we can ditch the rubbish, so that sort of thing. So I think probably a lot of people need to do that. But I remember how lonely I felt after my relationship died. Even though it wasn't a very nice relationship come the end, I felt really lonely. I didn't have a partner anymore. How did I go out? You know, I'd never been out to a function on my own. It was really quite daunting. And obviously family and friends, kind of the relationships there changed. So it was quite a horrible situation to be in. And I can totally understand where clients I've had have kind of gone straight into another relationship afterwards. And generally that relationship doesn't work out because it's like on the rebound, if you like. And maybe, it's a good thing. Maybe they've got some really good stuff out of it, but it's probably not going to be a lasting relationship, is it? Whereas if we do work on ourselves, hopefully the next relationship will be a bit more lasting.
Well, I agree completely with you, Margaret, exactly. And you can understand, because obviously if you've been in a long-term relationship and a partnership, your life has been defined by that relationship. So you've always got somebody to go to the cinema with, you've got somebody to go to lunch with. You know, it may be that your situation is set up in a very coupley way or in a very family orientated way, because I know certainly, when my children were young and at school, some of our closest friends at that time were other friends from, the parents of the children that they went to school with. So, it can be that your life is set up in a very family or coupley orientated way. So it can seem really, really daunting if you then find yourself on your own and think, okay, well, where do I start? Because if when people get married, they're not thinking that it's going to end in a separation. They're thinking, well, look, you know what, this is going to be for life, which is what most people hope for when they get married. So you don't give yourself that space to think, oh, just in case it doesn't work out, let me make sure I've got this. You give yourself wholeheartedly to your relationship, which is really what you're supposed to do. So yes, it can be very, very difficult to start again. So what we try to do at Exclusive Equals with our coaching is also give people strategies and ideas for how they can take small steps into getting back out there, building up their self-confidence, building up their self-esteem, so that when they are ready to date again, it's in a really positive way for them and not in a way because they're just really, really wanting to feel, desired or feel as though they're in a partnership again.
Oh, that's really helpful information. I'm sure everyone's following this is finding this really helpful, Kandy.
I hope so.
Particularly if you're in that situation where you have, you've come through your divorce, everything's settled, the dust is settling, and now you're thinking about what to do with the rest of your life.
Yes.
Maybe a relationship isn't quite on the horizon yet, but it's good to know what you could be thinking or what could be going on for you subconsciously as well. Some of the things you've been saying, maybe kind of running programs in the back of your mind there. So have you got some tips that you could provide people with today, Kandy, that they could go away with and actually start thinking about and start maybe working on, so that they can really start the new journey on a positive step?
Well, I think the first step, Margaret, would be, obviously there are going to be so many things that you need to consider. So if you find yourself newly single, there are going to be a myriad of things that you have to consider. So I think the first thing that I would suggest is to prioritise the things that you need to take care of. Because obviously with Zen that you provide a whole 360 provision, don't you, for all the different areas that people will need to look at. I'd probably say that going out and dating again might not be perhaps top of that list at this stage. So I think it really does depend on where people are with themselves and with the progression of their separation to determine which steps they should take. But certainly if they were thinking that, they wanted to meet somebody and they wanted to start going out again, I think I'll probably advise them in the initial stages to think, okay, so, what sort of things do you want to do? If you had a choice of thinking, you know what, I can actually do anything that I want to do socially, what would that thing be? Don't think about, yes, but I can't. Don't think, yeah, but there isn't a salsa class near me, or there isn't a cookery club near me. Just write down some sort of really dreamy ideas of what it is that you'd like to do. And then from that, work back to see how realistic those things can be. And then once you start opening your mind in that way, then you can think about, okay, so I've written down the ideal. So let's get back now and work back to see what is actually realistic with the time that I have to spare to do that, with the resources that I have, whether it be financially or whatever, with it, if there's any equipment that you may need, and then work back and then just start, sort of like from the dream, and then work back to what will be realistic. And I think the first thing would be to take really, really small steps, not to jump in head, feet first until you feel really, really comfortable, and just allow yourself to progress over the period of time, because there's going to be a lot of sort of push and pull, I think. When you'll some days, like anything, some days you have good days, some days you have bad days. So you want to just allow yourself that time to just come to terms with what's happened and think, okay, in real terms, what do I honestly feel I can cope with at the moment? And what will be a small step and make me feel happy? And then progress from there. It might be something simple like, you've never actually been and eaten alone, let's say, for example. So if that's the case and you think, what, I like going to restaurants. I always used to go with my partner. They're not here now, so what do I do? My friends are busy, I really fancy it. What do I do? Small step might be, I'm going to just go and sit and have a sandwich on my own, for example, and then progress from there. That's just a little example, but it's just really starting with small steps and then allowing yourself progression and allow your confidence to build so that you can move on to bigger and bigger things.
And that's a great thing, Kandy. I love the idea of actually taking the time to write down some things that you'd like to do, because actually it may have been that during the marriage or during the relationship or whatever, there may have been things that actually secretly you wanted to do but weren't able to. So
Yes.
now's the time to really, get a cup of tea or get a glass of wine, get your notepad, go and sit somewhere quiet, and actually write down all the things that you would love to do. And it doesn't matter how big they are. You might feel that you want to go on Richard Branson's Jet to the Moon when it comes out. Write it down. By doing that, it really does, like you were saying, Kandy, open up all the processes that are going on in your brain. And it helps your brain realise that you want to do something different now. You're in a different situation. You've got this beautiful blank sheet, and it is a beautiful blank sheet. It's not a scary one. It might seem a bit scary, but once you take a lovely pen and start writing all the things that you'd like to do,
exactly,
and it will start coming and it will start flowing. And the idea of actually, because that was something that I found difficult, was going out on my own when I was divorced, and the idea of going to a pub or a restaurant, because due to my age, going into a pub, it was absolutely frowned on years ago. If ladies walked into a pub on their own, they were just asking for one thing. So I found it quite difficult to walk into a pub on my own when I got divorced. Things have changed now because it's a much different atmosphere. But even so, it can be quite daunting to walk into a place and sit down at a table and eat a meal or eat a sandwich on your own, because you haven't got that repartee that you've got, perhaps even if someone else is just sat there silently and you're not having a conversation. So one of the things I used to do, we've all got our mobile phones now, so there's no excuse. We can look as though we're looking on Facebook, or we can actually look at emails and things. But I used to take a newspaper in or a magazine, and I'd sit there and read the magazine or the newspaper while I was eating my sandwich. And that's how I started to take the tiny steps, exactly as you said, because that's right. You don't want to jump in quickly, because that might frighten you and you might never do it again. But tiny little steps, just getting yourself out there, and that builds confidence. And the more confident you are, I think the better type of relationship you'll get, won't you?
Definitely, Margaret, exactly. I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's it. It's just, accepting, okay, things didn't go the way I thought they would. They're different now. But this is me. And taking that time to discover who, this version of yourself, at this age, post-relationship, with everything you've learned, with the person that you've become, the only way initially to do that is to sort of like almost not go it alone, but just to really take the time to discover yourself. And that can be really, really scary. But if you take, like you said, Margaret, small steps, little bites, rather than trying to eat the whole thing in one go, little bites, and then, you know, eventually, hopefully, you'll get to the place that you need to get to and want to get to and you deserve to be. Because we only get one life, don't we? So we need to make the most of it.
Exactly, and that's my whole point, and that's why I'm bringing these guests like you onto the TV program, to help people understand that, and to please, you know, get yourselves out there and do something, really do something. Don't stand back and think that life is over, because it really isn't. Life isn't over. You're never too old to start again. I heard somebody the other day say that their 70-year-old mother had started a new business. So come on, ladies, it's not too late. It's never too late. And it's never too late for a relationship either. Because years ago, when I was married, our next door neighbours were an old elderly couple called Ruby and Bill. And they were my son's godparents, actually, as it turned out. I asked them to be the godparents. And they both got married when they were in their 80s.
Wow, Margaret. Fantastic.
Plenty of time, you know, so don't think you're never going to have a really lovely, loving relationship. But as Kandy says, just take it a step at a time. And if you come through your divorce and you've kind of done a lot of work and you're ready to go ahead for a relationship, but you just don't know what first step to take or where to go and find somebody, and you've tried the internet, and I don't know, I've tried that myself, and I know a lot of people are quite successful with internet dating, but it certainly hasn't been for me. I usually end up with the people that don't tell the truth on their on their profiles, which, coming to you, you would interview the person in any event, wouldn't you? So that there would be no question they wouldn't be who they would be. And that would make me feel a lot more comfortable than going on a dating site.
Definitely. I mean, you know, yes, we agree that things have moved on, but that's not for everybody. So we do interview everybody individually. We meet them in person. So obviously we can't, you know, we're not the police or the authorities, but we take every step that we can to ensure authenticity, you know, and the identity of everybody that we choose to take onto our books as our members. So, you know, so it can be a really gentle way of putting yourself back in there, or in the game, if you like, if that's what people want to call it, without sort of like the fear of the unknown of, you know, is this person genuine? Do they want me for me? You know, what are they looking for? We kind of do all of that for you, so that, you know, hopefully the majority of the hurdles that you could be concerned about when you first meet somebody, hopefully we've taken all the work away from you.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Because then, you know, if you've got all that out the way, then you can actually, you know, enjoy the date or the time out with the person that you're going to meet.
Yes.
And I guess, you know, that just takes all that, you know, the initial thought when you meet someone. When I met somebody from dating was, okay, you know, I'm up for this. Let's go and see. And then, as it went on, I was kind of thinking, I don't know, you know, there were all sorts of things going around in my head as to whether this was going to be okay if I went off alone with him or something.
Yes, of course.
Be careful when you meet people, you know, on the net without having, because I guess most of us would have met our partners through like relationships that we've had with other people. We see other people who've got, you know, friends or partners or whatever.
Exactly.
You kind of get to know people that way, or if you've got married from school or college, you kind of known the person a little bit of a long time, you know, in their context. But just for me, somebody on the internet, it would be quite difficult. I don't think I'd want to do that again.
Yeah, and
relationship. So it would be somebody like yourself. I think I would really like to have that kind of, as you said, you know, being held and kind of almost nurtured, isn't it? I really like that.
It's absolutely that. And I think, you know, you've made a really important point that, you know, if you're coming out of a long-term relationship, the way people met years ago was a little bit different in that, you know, people didn't have to work the long hours that they have to work now. They didn't have to work for as long as they have to work now. So, you know, there was more scope in some ways to meet people. And like you said, a lot more friends of friends, friends of family, whereas there's a lot more movement. People move around a lot more now for their work, for whatever. And you could find yourself in a new town, you know, you've moved to work, it's your dream job, you've moved, you know, or maybe because of, you know, the breakup, you've decided that you need to move away, maybe you can't afford to remain where you are, or you decide you just want a clean break.
Right.
And then you think, you know, I'm going to move away. Well, you know, what do you do in those circumstances? Where do you go to make friends? What do you do? And if you're already feeling, you know, perhaps your confidence isn't where you'd want it to be, you know, what do you do? You know, who can help you to, or hold your hand if you like, and help you to get out of that? So, yeah, it is, you know, things have changed an awful lot, but, you know, I think people's values are the same. And I think the main thing that I would say to people is, you know, when you're looking for your next relationship, if that's what you want to do, or you want to start dating, think about the values first. Doesn't matter who they are, think about the values first. Work out what your values are now at this time, and then choose people where the values complement each other. You know, that would be my first step.
And when we talk about values, that means the things that are important to you.
Yes, exactly.
Rather than you sharing somebody else's value, or having to go with somebody else's value that you don't believe in.
Exactly.
Because sometimes that's pretty much why relationships break up, because values are not balanced.
Exactly.
To say that you have to do exactly the same thing as the other person or live in their pocket, it's not like that. It's actually sharing the same thoughts and feelings about things, isn't it, really?
Definitely.
Something like
same things, holding the same things, you know, dear to you, you know.
That's right, yeah.
They're kind of like the rules that you live your life by, you know, the rules really that you live your life by. And, you know, if you're going to share your life with somebody, they need to complement each other, don't they? Because it's very difficult, because if they don't, then someone is going to have to compromise.
Yeah, that's lovely. Well, thank you so much, Kandy, for taking the time to come along here to Zen TV today. How can people, if anyone wants to contact you because they're quite interested in finding out a little bit more how you could help them, have you got a website?
Yes, and people, if they want to get in touch with me, they can contact me through my website, which is www.exclusiveequals.com. There's opportunity there to either give me a call or to email me, and I will get straight back to them. So, yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much for coming along today, Kandy. That's been lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Margaret, thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely to talk to you again.
You're very welcome. Bye for now.
Bye for now.